Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of That Tom Clancy Show. I am your host, Mr. That Tom Clancy, and this is now because Chroma has brought it up. I was going to make a big to do about it, but we're changing to a toaster show starting next week, guys. So we're going to be talking all the wonderful things that you can use a toaster for, like making sketchy grilled cheese sandwiches. I hear you can cook hot dogs in there too, but I'm lying. We're not going to be a toaster show. Sorry, Chroma. That actually could be kind of funny doing a toaster head. I'll think about that. Think about it. But before we get started with the show proper, I just had two things I wanted to say. One, I thought Halo Infinite looked really cool, and I'm looking forward to it. But I mean, it's a Halo game, so I'm going to buy it anyway. I sound different. Yeah, my voice is kind of bugging me today. I don't know what's going on. It certainly could not have been the pizza I should not have eaten for dinner. Certainly couldn't be that. And then also, I was reading a story on Engadget. Some dudes found a mold in Chernobyl that is radiation absorbing and could help us get to Mars. I just thought that was really neat. But then again, I'm a nerd. So, without further ado, my guest tonight is the art director for a small social VR app that you may have heard of called, I think it's like VR Chat or something like that. But more importantly, he's also an artist specializing in holograms, which are really badass. Bits and pixels, may I introduce Mike Murdock. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's
So
so cozy in all these low polys.
it does have a certain appeal to it. I mean, I've definitely gotten used to it. Um, you know, uh, I know that it appears a little solid. I don't have like the hologram thing down quite yet, but it took me this long to reconstitute myself in the digital space. Who knows what it's going to look like in a couple years?
That's right, yeah.
So, well, of course, welcome to the show. So good to have you here. I've Fictional Cat, one of my mods, has been saying he's been following you for years on Instagram. I have also been following your work for a long time. I forget exactly who linked it to me. It doesn't even matter. I just discovered it one day and have been a fan ever since. And you've been on my list of people I really wanted to have on. And so it's like really awesome having you here.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no, it's super fun, to be sharing more of it, but talking about the process. Um, yeah, no, I'm super excited. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, there's one image in particular because Mike shared a bunch of pictures and videos with me that we could talk about, and I'm gonna throw this one up on screen right now, and I'm sure you've got a chance to. Mike, please tell me that that is just like some weird Photoshop fever dream, and that is not what one of your shaders actually looks like.
uh, um, I think that's a rigging setup from Maya. Um, I've been a digital artist for almost a decade now, and like at the surface level of a lot of the software, you see like, oh, it's nice, and there's nice little buttons to click, and then once you start digging deeper, you get into the core of the program, and that was like one setup that I was like, well, that's kind of strangely beautiful and chaotic.
I I don't know that beautiful is the word that I would use. Uh, Chaos for sure. Uh, I the sentence that comes to mind for me is a spaghetti mess that would cause an Italian restaurant to shut down.
Yeah,
But
most likely. I mean, it's interesting for a lot of the software, and that was Maya. I use Houdini. There's like Nuke. They all have nodes, and to do advanced stuff, like you wind up in this crazy mess of, trying to put digital things in kind of a 2D screen space, and keep it all organized.
yeah, yeah, I know a little teeny bit about that with my work in Unreal. Um, Hello, Unreal. Sorry. They raided my channel on Thursday and I kind of freaked out a little bit, so I just like to hedge my bets and just like say hello just in case. Um
Sweet.
yeah, I don't think I want to work with you on a project that has node-based scripting in it ever. Cuz I don't know, man. Oh, Wildstorm, so good to have you here. Dude, Orioles right now. I figured we shouldn't have gone back to baseball, but what do we know? We're just people living in the world that's gone to hell. Um, but so there are two big questions that I have for you in regards to your work. Uh, one is how, but that's a little less important. Uh, the other question is why holograms? And while you take a moment here to think about this, I'm going to run a little slideshow of some of your work that it was easier just to make one key binding to show a bunch of your work than to make a bunch of key bindings to show all of it. So,
Gotcha. Yeah.
but yeah, so why, like, what possessed you to start making, you know, like Tron if it looked better?
Yeah, no, I think partially because being a 3D artist, I spend so much of my time looking at behind the scenes of how art's made in a digital world. So in Maya or Houdini, you're not looking at the beautiful polished image that goes up on screen for like a video game or a movie. You're looking at the guts of how everything works. And so I started finding a lot of beauty in these kind of unfinished digital pieces, like what you would see if you were just working with the object in the viewport. And as part of like seeing so much of the guts of all this 3D artwork, I wanted to do an exploration of that space. And so yeah, just started like uh, finding the pure shapes and colors that would make these really interesting combinations in digital land, and that it took a while. It took several years for me to kind of get to where they are right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a very striking style. Um, I, I still feel like I ask you very frequently, how do I get these things in here? At least a handful of times I know that I have seen your work and been like, can I get that? Can I put that in a
Yeah.
game? Can
Can
I
I hold
play with
one in
that?
my hand?
Yeah,
Yeah, what does it
exactly.
taste like?
Like what does it sound like? Because that these I mean, you look at it and it's just, as a fellow virtual reality enthusiast, there's there's a feel to these objects. They're more than just images and videos. Like, these are the particular social, like, not social media, but the particular pop culture reference I'm always reminded of with these is in Akira, when the colonel's in the van and they have like the little ring thing that's measuring Tetsuo's power. Like, that's kind of what I always think of when I see these, and it's just like, I just want to sit there and I want to stare at them like they're in a real space, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, that kind of gets to the second reason of why I make them. And the first one is, of course, like I look at all of this stuff every day and I see the wireframes, and so I wanted to capture some of that, but polish it up. And the second reason is that I think as a movie audience and TV show like Akira, we kind of know how computers work. And a lot of film UI, like Iron Man, it's basically like an iPad that's floating in front of you in the air. But if you go back before, the touch screen, um, when computers were first emerging and filmmakers had to say like, well, I have a computer in the script. What does it look like? What does it do? And how do people like communicate with this device? They had to invent it all. And so I kind of wanted to like take it back to the part of computing where we still didn't know what was possible with it, and just reinvent some of the things. Like, come up with a crazy name for some sci-fi gadget, and then, all right, let me make that. Let's see what that would be. And so, yeah, I think there's like a lot of excitement around what is a computer. And now with VR, it's like, whoa, you mean we can be in the same physical space as it? I can hold it in my hand. And that's why I wanted to return and say there's so much more to explore here than just it's a floating iPad interface. Like they're physical objects and you can rotate them and look at them.
Nice. Real quick, Boombox Heads, thank you for the follow. And Crikey or Creaky, one of the two, you followed right before the show started. I just wanted to say thank you to you as well. Um, no, that's one of the things that I kind of wish a lot more VR games would get into. Uh, because so many of them, I mean, with the exception of like, say, Half-Life Alex, but that's kind of unfair to compare most VR games to Half-Life Alex. Um,
Oh yeah, it's so well done.
it, there could I've played 30 minutes of that game and I could do an entire episode just talking about that 30 minutes. Um,
Yeah, no, they and maybe you should because like they've clearly been watching everything happening in VR. And basically, Alex is a greatest hits. Like any amazing moment that somebody thought of, they said, "Okay, awesome. We can put that. We can give that experience to people." So every cool thing they've crammed into Alex somehow and made an amazing story and game out of it.
yeah, I think my personal favorite moment in the beginning of the game is when you're stepping off the elevator and there are the two combine troopers, and just as soon as those elevator doors open, they're just like guns up at you as the character, and the first thing I could think was just throw my hands up in the air. And it was just this really not frightening moment, but surprising moment that just completely caught me off guard. And it was just 45 seconds of the most immersive storytelling and gameplay that I have ever experienced.
Yeah, there's certain ways like they're masters at just bypassing a lot of this stuff that we expect in storytelling and cutting right to like putting you in the experience. And you're not like waiting for the main character to experience it. You just get to be there.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of skill because they have a script and you don't know what the script is as the player, but you're following the script and making that a really light touch is, it shows mastery for sure.
I mean, it's Valve.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Like,
pretty good at games.
they make like 2 games a decade, but they also make two of the best games of every decade.
Yeah.
Crikey in chat says, I had a lot of fun turning your planet concept into an interactive toy. Is there any other piece of artwork that would really suit being turned into something playable?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I saw that one pop up in Twitter, was it yesterday? But that was it was super cool. Like I wish I had that example in there, but it's kind of like a ring shape and then there's I think dodecahedron in the middle and then there's these nodes revolving around it that you can drag and drop. Um yeah, I'm trying to think like what I've been interested more is physicality. So, what are ways of like, when you rotate an object, it feels more there. And as far as interactions, like playing off something that rotates and is really cool as you discover new angles from it. I'll have to get back to you. Hit me up on Twitter, and I might have some recommendations.
Oh shoot. Crikey. I forget what the rules are for posting links in chat. I'm sorry, I'm a horrible robot host. But Fictional Cat is an excellent mod and frequently fixes many of my mistakes. So, all right. Well, since we have a very good sense of the why on this, uh, how? Like, I mean, I know enough about Maya to be slightly dangerous and make a couple things that don't look like complete garbage. So, how are you making, like, I don't even, like, personally, I don't even understand the workflow of building something in wireframe. or correction, I should say rendering something out in wireframe.
Yeah, well, it took me a long while to figure out the process, and the secret sauce is that they're not renders; they're actually photographs. So what you're seeing is me pulling out my cell phone and taking a picture of the computer screen, and for me, that workflow is just more interesting. Like, why get this digital render that's perfect in every way and then try to distress it and put in some more of these like lens smudges or film grain if it's low light? If your camera is slightly out of focus, then you get this beautiful bloom that just messes with this digital perfectness. And so, yeah, I mean, that first image you showed was me occasionally being like entertained by, oh, this, all these nodes in Maya is really funny to see that crazy chaotic mess. And then I started like taking some shots of my in progress work. And then finally I was like, well, I can just throw this through an Instagram filter and kind of get a cool look behind it. So I really like treating them as photographs instead of renders. I think there's a lot of like freedom and what's the right word? Like unplanned. I can't be prepared for it because just have to shoot what's there and try to capture it.
So like some improvisation on top of just the technicality of putting together the work.
Yeah. So I mean, the formal like if it were a painting, the underpainting would be Houdini. That's the structure. And Houdini's this amazing 3D software, which I started learning because I've heard it was powerful, and so I'm like, well, let me give myself these little projects to try to learn the different ins and outs of Houdini, and I found this mode where you can apply like colors directly to the wireframes. To do that in Maya would be slightly workaround. Like there's ways to do it, but in Houdini it was just so simple and beautiful to add color wherever you want color to be in a wireframe, and you have all these different options for how you do that. So I just ended up working completely in wireframe mode then. And first of all, it was blazing fast because I'm not trying to render a 3D scene with lighting. It's just,
Yeah.
the structure behind it. And Houdini's like secret power or superpower, I should say, is that it's all nodes. And so when you want to make something, it's like building out of the core of 3D primitives. You say, well, I want a circle and I want to extrude that circle up. And each one of those would be like, all right, create circle. Then the next node would be extrude it up. So now I have a tube. And then I might want to scatter points all over it. And then I might want to connect those points. And so playing around in Houdini is like this infinite, like, what if I do this? What if I do this? And you can work forwards and backwards, like top, from the
Yeah.
beginning to the end. But at any time, if I want to go back to the beginning and say, what if I put like a square or a cube in instead of that circle, then all the rules flow down the nodes. And so it allows me to just always be asking, what if I did this in my design and just easily do it.
You're now giving me an idea on how to effectively do this show in wireframe. Uh, because I do most of my not Unreal work in Maya. And so, I mean, theoretically, all I would need to do, like if I were to say take the head here, would be to alpha out all of the actual surface and just throw color on the edge,
Yeah, you could do
just along the
vertex
edges.
colors.
Yeah,
Yeah, or wireframe. Yeah.
yeah. Good on you, fictional cat, for finding a workaround for that because I really want to see what Crikey did. But yes, because I mean, you, you've definitely kind of hit the nail on the head for this retro, like what would be the retro futuristic style of today? Like we tend to think of like retrofuturistic as like stuff like Fallout, and Fallout is definitely falls under it, but when the original Fallouts were coming out, you know, the 1950s were retro, but now because of how far technology has come, the 80s are effectively our retro, you know, and you've built these pieces that look like what we thought in the 80s computing was going to look like now. I mean, I'm glad
Yeah,
it
no,
doesn't, because it's a lot easier on the eyes for long periods of time, but
yeah, I think it's again, it's the question of what if, like, what if we were in that future where it just, yeah, everything was holograms. I'm a big believer as well in just like simple shapes, and a lot of my designs, you know, they're a cube or they're a sphere or they're a circle at the core level when you look at them. And so I think like that's how I manage the complexity is when they were first done for like Star Wars or Alien, that's all the computers could render as far as the UI. They couldn't be complex. But it, you know, so it takes a lot of work on my part to like say, yeah, I could do this crazy complex thing, but I need to shave it all down to just like the powerful shape that is the dominant feature of this. And so yeah, it's a lot of refinement. Um, you know, like you can do anything with computers, but actually paring it back is difficult.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely one of those things where it's you know, the less is more for sure sometimes, but when we have the ability to just push millions of pixels and polygons, it's like, you know, people get blinded by it and just go, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
When I had got a 2-year degree in game design back from 2012 to 2014, and one of the uh, guys I was in school with was going down the art track, and one of the things that our teacher in art always kind of pushed upon us was giving us really hard triangle limits. You know, like, hey, I want you to make this thing and I want it to look really good, but do it in 600 or fewer triangles, you know. And this particular person would always be like, well, why are we, you know, limited to this? If you let me do it in 2000, it would look excellent, you know. And teachers always like, look, if you can't sell your profile in, you know, 600 tries, then you're you're not doing it right, you know. Like, raw graphical power isn't as interesting as solid art.
oh yeah, for sure. Like art direction and making the right shapes and you know being able um, to work within your limitations. Like there's a brilliant solutions that come out of that limitation, and I think some of my favorite artwork is all based around like you know I only have this. What can I do with it? And so you have to get really smart and make everything count.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that helped make, you know, going back to George Lucas here, the original Star Wars films look so great. It was, hey, we only have X amount of dollars, but I have Y amount of idea. What is the Z of this equation where it looks like it I want it in my head, but I don't go over budget, you
Yeah,
know? And for them, it was computer controlled cameras because it was easier to make a camera do the exact same thing a bunch of times over than make the models do it. Um, which I thought was really interesting. And I found out a little while ago, thanks to the Corridor Crew YouTube channel. Not a sponsor, but I wish they were.
yeah,
Those guys are
they do
awesome.
great work.
Yeah, their VFX artist react thing is just so good. Um, but there's one piece. Well, there are a couple more pieces I pulled to look at. The one in particular is you called it the Enigma tuner. And this one I wanted to talk to you about mostly because you did some baller shader work on this one. So let's go ahead and get the video for that running. Um, like, oh, come on. No, it's doing the
Yeah.
thing where it hates me again.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay, so very clearly you've got your cube here. Come on. I don't know why it's this particular like slot in Streamlabs just hates me. But so you've got, your basic cube here. It's a television. You've got your cathode ray tube in the back, but you're also displaying, I believe that's a dodecahedron there in the center. Um, but so, like, very clearly, the screen itself is a shader, and then the tube too has its own kind of shader thing going on here. What the hell did you pull that off?
Um, well, I mean, the inspiration behind it was I've really been a fan of Dieter Rams. He's an industrial designer who worked for Braun for a while doing radios and stereos, and Apple is hugely inspired by Dieter Rams' work. And so I think that one's kind of inspired by one of his radio designs. But yeah, I wanted to again take some of the beautiful shapes from the past, like, well, if it's a radio, we should strip it down into, the tuner part. And I thought, let's build upon that concept. And instead of tuning radio waves, you're kind of tuning dimensions. Um, and so I wanted to combine, the physical nature of like the wood materials and the plastic, which Dieter Rams was brilliant at how he worked in plastic, and then combine it with this fantastical hologram stuff. um, but the other huge part of it, as far as the shader goes, is refractions. So now I think that was rendered in redshift, but now I can play with refraction of glass being part of the design of the hologram. So as it rotates, I wanted to have that cool distortion from glass.
Yeah, you definitely nailed that. Yeah, I had never seen this piece until you shared it with me over the last few days. And so it was just this wonderful surprise for me. Because it's always nice to find a piece by an artist you like that you haven't seen before. Last week I had Rosie Summers on, VR Rosie, and
Oh, of course, yeah,
yeah, she's awesome.
yeah.
And we were talking about our mutual love of Monet, and in Chicago, basically just down the road from me at the Art Institute, they have his London series, which I had never seen before. I went and saw it like 6 or 7 years ago for the first time. And, like when you're used to seeing his water lilies and all that stuff, you know what Monet is capable of. But then you see something completely different. And it's just like, it's the same, like his style is very much there. And then this is kind of that moment where your style is in that piece, but it's almost a different, what's the word I'm looking for here? It almost feels like a different medium too. You, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, no, that's interesting because like uh, I would, like the normal holograms, the stuff that you see, the wireframes, those are photographs, and so that's me playing around with additive color space. It's light, and I want to try to capture some of that. But with like the Enigma tuner, that was all rendered in a physically plausible environment. Like Redshift does photorealism and it does light simulation, and so now it was kind of like, okay, well, I'm trying to simulate this additive hologram within another simulation of photorealism, and how do I get those two worlds to work together?
nice. Yeah, it's it's a striking piece.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was also like a ton of people poking me and saying like, "Hey, I want to see your stuff in motion. Can we see it in motion?" So, um, yeah, like, and I've been struggling with this for a while. Like, the point of the hologram stuff was I get home from work, and let me take like 30 minutes and just like experiment in Houdini and play around with shapes and colors, and then take a picture with my cell phone. So it's not like then I set up a render that's done several hours later. It's like in half an hour I'm done. I've done my
yeah,
piece of art and I can just like chill out. And so that's why there was kind of this conflict of, well, if they're in motion, then I don't have that luxury of making something quickly and being done. it's a more involved process. Um, so occasionally, I've done some experiments like how would a workflow look like, or what would it look like if I were trying to animate them all?
Yeah. Well, speaking of them in motion, here is another piece of yours which caught my eye. Uh, don't, yeah, Trondala. One, mandalas are beautiful, and two, you put Tron in it, so of course I'm going to pay attention. Look, man, I love that movie. I love its sequel, and I am very sad that its sequel didn't get a sequel.
Oh
So,
yeah, one of my favorite Daft Punk albums as well is that
oh, it's
score.
so good. That's like what the internet sounds like in my head. Like that is the soundtrack of the internet.
The grid. Then
Yeah.
one day I got in. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I'm pretty sure that William Gibson was channeling Daft Punk from the future while he was writing Neuromancer.
Oh yeah. Well, and the original was, I think, Wendy Carlos, which, also a huge experiment in synthesizers, and so
Yeah.
it made sense to now get a slice of where electronic music was and kind of the state of the art as far as, um, what computers, or what sounds computers can make. So it was a great. I loved the Daft Punk album.
Yeah,
So good.
we're lucky they picked Daft Punk and not like Skrillex. Uh
That would have been great too, but
I
yeah,
mean, it would have, but it also wouldn't have. Cuz
yeah.
they yeah, cuz yeah, I mean, well, Daft Punk with the exception of I forget the name of that album that came out after Tron, th- they're the modern masters of the electronic sound, and I really hate to say that about a pair of Frenchmen, but they nailed it, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Well, I think it was too for me that Daft Punk has their style, the French style of electronic,
yeah.
and they set that aside to make a great score. They said like we could do our style, but it's not about that. It's about the world of Tron. And I think that's why it was great, is it was serving a purpose. They weren't just trying to say, we'll make some cool tunes.
But and yet at the same time, it was also so perfectly them. I mean, the music in and around Zeus's club is absolutely Daft Punk. Like they could have
Oh yeah.
thrown that on any one of their albums, and we would not have questioned it. Um, Clue's theme would have worked anywhere as well. But I mean, dude, I love the crap out of that movie.
It's so good, yeah.
Well, it's like for me, it's a very personal thing, not just because I love Tron and everything, but because Sam's journey is very similar to my journey, and that because a big part of the metaphor of that movie is, Sam gets an idea of who his father is by becoming engrossed in his work. And as somebody who also grew up in a very similar situation, minus the parent disappearing for 30 years, part, I know what it's like to have to rely on an exterior source to learn about who your parent is. And so it's, like for me, that was just a really touching movie. I just wish that mine involved Olivia Wilde and being in really cool computer space.
Yeah. No, but like I think the emotional arc is great too. Is like reinterpreting the hero's journey to be more about the legacy that you're exploring instead of just this unknown forest.
Yeah.
The first one was about exploring this unknown forest to you, and achieving mastery over it. But the second one was about that and this whole legacy, this world that existed before him.
I want to watch that movie again.
Watch party. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that could work out. Fictional cat, send me a message, remind me to look into watch parties. Maybe we'll watch Tron. Um, Either of them, I love them both. Ooh, and I have Disney Plus. Um, yeah. So Trondala. Now that we have been suitably
Yeah. Little
distracted,
tangent.
yeah, they happen all the time on this show. A couple weeks ago, we were talking food, Before that, we've talked computer parts, uh, talking about the benefits of Ryzen processors over Intel processors. Um, so, but quick tangent I just got reminded of, uh, but didn't put in the show notes. What VR hardware do you use at home?
I have one of each, but I mainly use a Rift S. It's yeah, no, it's nice to just throw it on. Don't have to do calibration or stuff. And I like the controllers too. I like having the analog sticks. So
I mean, I have analog sticks.
on your fancy index.
Oh
No,
god, these things are so great.
I am very envious of the nice headphones as well on the index.
They are really nice, but unless you're willing to like go through and like tune every individual program, they're kind of a pain. Like the quality is top notch, don't get me wrong, but so many things, like you know how when you're watching TV and you'll like have the volume set at a certain level for the show and then a commercial comes on and it's like
Yeah,
8,000 decibels louder. That is what it's like to work with a Rift or with an
with the
index.
index.
um I mean, the volume controls are really easy to get to, and like you can very quickly just be like bloop and have them right off your ears, but it's just, it's like, come on, quality of life
Yeah.
improvement here.
No, I've been using the Rift S for I think the last year, but I have a Quest as well that I use. I have a Vive that for certain things like I prefer the controller for like shooting games or throwing games. It just is nicer to have something that feels like you're holding an object rather than a thing that you slip around your hand. So
And Beat
um,
Saber.
Beat Saber is great with the Vive as well. Yeah, Index as well. I think they did a good job with the ergonomics.
I'm still getting used to the difference and all that. Like I spend a lot of time in VR, but I don't spend a lot of time playing games in VR. Though I do make time for Pistol Whip because I think that is the
It's so
best
good.
arcade shooter that has ever been made.
It's
Um,
so good.
I am going to make a quick apology to my previous favorites, House of the Dead, Time Crisis, and Area 51. Oh, and The Lost World. Sorry, guys. Pistol Whip is excellent. Um, man, that was the dude. That was like growing up in the '90s was the era of the light gun shooter, and just
Yeah,
with the exception of games like Pistol Whip, they haven't done too developers haven't done a particularly good job of bringing that back, despite the fact that this is the perfect medium for stuff like that to come back.
yeah, and Maximum Force as well. You keep seeing it like
Oh
bowling alleys and
yeah.
stuff, where it's the
um
dude with the sunglasses and the cigars, like got a machine gun who sweeps across. It's I just love the over the top action kind of thing.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie and say that I haven't put some thought into a game of that style,
Oh yeah,
but
like
yeah. I had to work on this show.
I know I've been wanting a good like light gun shooter or on rail shooter in VR for a while. Um, and yeah, so like I'm really into Tempest or Res, a tube shooter kind of genre as well, where it's like you're moving forward through the space and then there's things to shoot along the way. Um, and I'd love to see more of that in VR as well. Like Beat Saber is kind of in that realm. It's
Yeah,
all about you staying in one place and things coming at you that you're supposed to hit. And like Tempest is, you're moving around the edge of this tube, but it all plays with this new dimension, which is depth.
yeah.
And so it's just a perfect pair for VR.
I'd be down for like a Panzer Dragoon as well.
I hope they do something like is that Sega?
Yeah.
I think they've done some VR experiments as well.
Dude, I'd like to see Nintendo like legit step into VR. I know they won't, but like, or no, no, even better. Nintendo goes, "Hey Valve,
Yeah, here's a license.
we need a virtual reality Legend of Zelda game. You're the people to make it
That's a
happen."
good combo, yeah.
Dude, that's the only combo. Or F-Zero.
F-Zero would be great too.
Dude, I want a new F-Zero game so bad because the last one was what, F-Zero GX for the GameCube,
Yeah, I think so. I'm
which
I'm a
yeah.
sucker for this too, where I'll buy any game that looks like F-Zero. Um,
Ah.
I got was it Fast Racing RMX, which is it's a originally a I think a Wii U game that was ported to Switch, and it's fantastic. I really like the developers. They made a cool shooter called Nano Assault as well, but they did a great job with it. Um, and what's the other racing game? It was a PlayStation one, Wipeout. Yeah,
Oh
that
yeah.
one. Love that series as well.
I will forever remember that game, not for actually playing the game, but because of the movie Hackers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, if any of you are unfamiliar with the movie Hackers, one, you should go watch it. And two, the main characters play Wipeout on the most improbable video game setup of all time. But I'm pretty sure everybody who watched that movie wanted to play Wipeout in that setup. It was great. So good.
was that the like full on arcade with the gimbal thing?
Well, no. That was they had like a stadium jumbotron, and they had the two
Uh
like joysticks and stuff, and it was like all like super intense and stuff. You know, Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina
oh
Jolie are
yeah,
like going at yeah. That was so cool. Video games look so cool in in movies and
in
TV.
movies, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, that's what people who write this stuff think we all look like. I'm
Oh, of course
touched.
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all ride rollerblades and have silly haircuts. Okay,
Well,
maybe
I
that
like
was
that
true in the 90s.
we're finally like delivering some of that vision though with esports and um like I've been getting more into Apex Legends like as hey, it's a fun game. I love the developer. Respawn does an amazing job
Oh
and
my god,
Titanfall
they're
2.
so good.
It's so
Did you
good.
play Jedi Fallen Order?
I did, yeah. I've played like all of their stuff. They're so good at they know how to write a character controller
Dude,
and design it. It's
they
so
brief aside, they make the best single player campaigns of everyone.
yeah,
Well, Western developers, I should say.
of Western, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I love like that sort of I don't know, like yeah, they're top of their game, and I've been getting into Apex Legends a little bit, and so I've been watching on Twitch. Like, let's just see some of the top streamers, and let me tune in a little bit. And like after that, like I'm not interested in normal sports. It's too slow. Like when you can see this pro player at lightning speeds from their point of view, seeing everything they see and like how fast they move, you're like, well, football is kind of boring now. It's just little people moving around on the field. But like so like you're jacking directly into somebody's vision and some these top level esports players and like that was what I imagined watching Hackers. Like yeah, that's what video games are going to be like in the future. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of like the esports, like what it can deliver, and I'm looking forward to like it becoming bigger and bigger.
Real quick before I forget, Chroma in chat mentions Operation Warcade as when we were talking about light gun shooters of the 90s. It's exactly what you're looking for. I will do my very best to remember that. Because, yeah. Although I've been playing around with an idea in my head that I call Escape from Dinosaur Canyon, uh, which is a VR virtual or a VR spiritual successor to the Lost World arcade game, where you are trying to escape a canyon full of dinosaurs.
Of course, that sounds amazing.
Doesn't it? You
Yeah,
know, like one, dinosaurs need to be in more games, uh, and two, it sounds silly enough for me to want to make it. Uh,
yeah, you have to have the X factor of it needs to be ridiculous.
yeah. Um, I'm trying to figure out how any of it would work. So when I figure that part out, then I can start working on all the other stuff. Um, has like on support for ROMs that use them. Neat. Huh. Well, guys, this is, I mean, the chat is always welcome to ask questions. I love questions, especially when it means I don't have to come up with them. So if you all have any questions, yeah, I mean, like, putting together a show, it's not as easy as it looks. You have to do your research. You have to like pull samples and stuff. Fictional cat makes me dab. Fictional cat also makes you dab.
Do I have to do that? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Well,
Yep. Yep. He redeemed the channel points. It
oh
says
wow, there we go.
guest dab. So, but you did it. So there we go. Good
All
job.
right, I feel like I need to take a shower now or something.
As somebody who is definitely too old to be doing dabs,
I
yeah.
mean, I only try to do those when I want to make my niece cringe. Like, yeah, like, is this dabbing? And then do something else, like do the Macarena. She's like, no, that's not dabbing. Or I'll try flossing, but do that horribly. And she's like, no, stop. So
Oh man. I am one of the three oldest people at my Starbucks where I generally work during the daytime hours. So I do things like dab just to make the younger people laugh. Because they're all like, oh, look at old man Thom over there. He's doing a dab. Oh, look, he's trying to floss. And I'm all like, am I elite yet? Are we cool, fam?
of
You know,
course, of course.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I do like I'm fascinated by all of this stuff, and like I remember when YouTube first was coming up, and like entire communities of dancers would record themselves doing a move, and then around the world some other dancer would figure it out, and they would then share that. And I think it's really cool to that like a game has a dance as an emote in it, a video game, and now people are doing that in physical space together. Like they're learning this physical way of moving together um, by seeing it in a game, and like that's fascinating. It's more about bringing the physical and the virtual spaces together.
The ink skin the ink sin in chat apparently missed your dab and asks if you can do it again. I will say though, if you want to, have at it, but you know, uh, the points weren't redeemed,
The
so
points weren't redeemed.
yeah,
Well, I'm trying to
it,
let me
it
see if I
was.
have it somewhere.
It sounded like a polite ask though, so at least I'm
Yeah,
reading
I
it
did
as a polite ask.
a while ago. I did the illustration series of draw six fan arts, and I have a picture somewhere of RoboCop dabbing.
Oh
Um,
my god, that is
and
glorious.
and Gizmo Duck. Yeah, I think it was like I got Columbo, so Columbo dabbing, um, Gizmo Duck, RoboCop, Akira, and Stringfellow Longhawk or something from like the Star Hawk. No,
Oh
what was
god.
that?
Yeah.
Airwolf, yeah. So I've got drawings, exquisite drawings of all those characters dabbing for your enjoyment.
We look at I occasionally will look at TV shows that are on today and just go, "Wow, this stuff is just insane." And then I remember that there were shows about Ferrari driving detectives in short shorts with baller mustaches. There
Oh
were
yeah,
there was Airwolf.
there was
what,
Airwolf.
what even was that show about? It was just a bunch of dudes that had helicopters and like were they fighting crime with
I have no idea.
helicopters?
Things blow up though.
Yeah.
Um,
MacGyver, a show all about a
MacGyver is
dude who
great.
just solves problems. But the funny thing is, a lot of his stuff worked. Mythbusters tested it in everything, and
Oh,
that's
nice.
just awesome.
Well,
Um,
that's like the beautiful thing of TV writing. Like I've heard in Star Trek writers where if they need a solution to a problem, they just type in insert techno jargon here, and then they send it off to a science crew to like, massage it a little bit and to make it semi plausible. But
Yeah.
MacGyver, they were just making that up as they went. Like, I don't think they had that process.
Man, it's funny. I was just watching a movie right before the show called Bushwick on Netflix, and it's if there was a second Civil War and the South was dumb enough to invade Brooklyn, is basically the premise of this movie. And like, there's one point in the movie where they grab one of the guys and they're all like, "Why are you here?" And they're all like, "Yeah, we were just gonna like take Brooklyn hostage." And I'm like, this is how you know that this movie was written by somebody who doesn't live in the US, because they didn't think to realize that people in New York are armed, dangerous, and are definitely going to fight back if a bunch of Southerners decide to start the
Try to
second
take
Civil
over.
War. Like, I'm sorry, bro, that's not how it works.
I mean, I love all the like Escape from LA where they just lean into all the LA tropes. But in this chaotic dystopian world, like I'm all about that.
But in
Um,
its own weird way, that kind of makes a little bit of sense, because it's
yeah,
like, it's consistent with the world they created with Escape from New York. It's all like, oh man, New York's gone all sorts of crazy, what are we gonna do? Well, just blow up all the tunnels, cut off all the bridges, and put boats in the harbor to shoot anything that tries to swim across. Bam, prison.
yeah,
you
amazing.
know
It's
yeah.
beautiful as well. Um, yeah, and I love Running Man and like Demolition Man, all those just over the top. Like I've got a concept. We just need to find a way for things to explode.
Mike, I think we have just become friends. um
All right, well, I will try to give you a hug. Wait, are you this way or
yeah,
how
i'm
are we
i'm to your
flipped?
right.
I'm to my right.
No,
There
that
we
would be
go.
your
Hug.
left. uh, wait, no.
That's to my. Oh, all right. Maybe I just put my hand here and we try to high five.
No,
Other one.
other way, yeah.
I'm bad at.
It's okay. That's as
Okay, okay, okay. I'm in a glass cage of emotion. I'm just in the
Here we
box.
are.
I can't get
I'm as
out.
close as I can get.
Oh,
Yeah. High
okay.
five.
Wow. There we go. Yeah, we got it.
I
I'm
stretched
calling
real
it.
hard
I
for
think
that
we
one.
got it. I
Oh
think we
yeah.
got
Dude, I stretched for that one. It's a good thing I don't have arms. Uh,
it.
yo, update on that. By the end of the week, I should have air conditioning in here, and that means I can start working on things like arms.
All right.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the air conditioning. I can wait on the arms. I kind of like not having them. It's kind of fun. Um,
Well, just make sure you don't skip leg day.
no, as you can tell, I've been skipping it for a very long time. Although I could do, but like so much of the show is seated. I don't really feel a need to have legs. Um, Fictional Cat says you should do more world building tutorials. The HomeKit tutorial really helped him get started.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that was when I first joined the VR chat team. I did this little tutorial of like, let's make a world, and I tried to like get all the important stuff in 10 minutes out of the way, and then like give a few extra things to play around with. But um, actually, like we've got a new team member, Momo the Monster. He's got this amazing blue avatar, and he's been doing some Udon tutorials. So like more of the advanced or not even advanced, just the cool stuff you can do with our new scripting system. So be sure to check out some of those tutorials. Yeah, and I've been looking at doing some more world tutorials as well.
Dude, you said udon and I thought noodles.
Oh, that's why we called it.
Oh,
It's a
is it a
node
visual
based,
scripting?
all about nodes, and so Udon is this custom built scripting system for VR chat, and you can connect the noodles to make game behavior a little bit like blueprints in Unreal. But the other sweet thing about it is it all just compiles down to assembly. So one of our amazing community members has already built a C sharp compiler. So that means you can just write C sharp and it turns into Udon, and then you can, create uh, interactivity in VR chat worlds.
This is
But
my
yeah,
thinking face.
This is your thinking face. Yeah, the noodles are also a nod to like the amazing Japanese community. We're just like amazed and blown away by all the cool stuff being done. Um, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I have not spent much time in VR chat. Uh yeah, that's basically sums up my experience with VR chat.
Okay.
You know, it's nothing
Yeah.
against
No.
VR
It's
chat. I just haven't gotten into it, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely came on through the creation side of things. Like I was doing the hologram series and trying to crank out one a day, and did that for like almost 2 years straight. One design every day. And then I kind of got bored of that and said, well, let me just try making worlds instead. Like it's like taking this hologram and flipping it around. Instead of trying to make an object, I'm trying to make a space. And so my first experience was let me make this cool Tron like inspired world, and just got hooked because of the moment you hit publish, there's like 20 people running around in your world experiencing it, and it's super satisfying.
Nice. Udon is looking really good. Love the grappling hook worlds and that giant robo arms world. Okay,
Oh yeah.
fine. I'll check out VR chat. Okay.
There is a row of just Udon featured, Udon Spotlight, and yeah, somebody made these giant robot arms that you can put on and climb buildings with. Um, uh, so the hook junkers is the one you're talking about. You've got basically like two hooks that you can swing around and all this geometry. Somebody also made a Hadoken kind of world. It's udon in it, but you can actually do the arm motions to throw a Hadoken and it shoots fireballs.
Fine. We'll organize that Tom Clancy show community VR chat thing
Yeah,
sometime.
happy to give you a tour. But it's also a cool way to like just get together. You can say, "Hey, meet here at this time," and get everybody in the same room.
Yeah. Well, that sounds fun. Uh sorry, that sounded really facetious and that's not how I meant it to say at all. Um
Oh no, no, we can give another shout out to Unreal and Epic if you want to.
well, you know, I I work in this because it's what I know. Um
Yeah.
I've been using Unreal Engine off and on really for the last 6 or 7 years. So, you know, um, like it's just, yeah. And also, I mentioned this to you. I also applied for a developer grant with them. So, like, until I hear back on that, I'm kind of definitely set in Unreal. And also, to it, it's very user friendly and all that stuff. And I don't know how to program. So,
Yeah. No, it's funny. I've heard like, developers always ask, which engine should I use? And somebody did a review where they're like, Unity, it does this well, 6 out of 10. Unreal, it does this well, 6 out of 10. Like they've all got their quirks, and
yeah,
um, I really love Unreal's lighting tools. I think they've got an amazing shader system. It's intuitive. I really love Unity for its openness. Like whatever you can dream up, it's usually pretty straightforward to jump in and get that idea working. It's very flexible, and yeah, it's just they're all really great. I happen to learn on Unity, and it works better with my brain because a lot of the hotkeys are similar to Maya and Houdini. So
yeah.
that's what I stuck with.
Uh, yeah. Uh, Unreal 4 hotkeys are very similar to Maya.
Oh,
Unreal
okay.
3 was
So,
very different. Unreal 3
yeah.
Unreal 3 is best forgotten. Uh,
Yeah, I had to do a class project in that, build a level. And I think it was like we had 12 hours to deliver the final project, and we decided we can't do this with Kismet, which I think is the precursor to Blueprints, their node-based scripting system.
yep.
So in 12 hours we rebuilt the whole game in Unity because like to get around this one limitation of their scripting system at the time.
Kismet was great, but you couldn't build like you couldn't build actor classes out of it like you can
Mhm.
with Blueprint. So it was you were very limited to like there was no easy way to take say the Kismet nodes for like say this set and take them over to another set that I have built elsewhere. Whereas now
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
now Blueprint works on a class by class basis. So
Yeah.
it makes things,
Well,
yeah, it was a great first attempt at a visual scripting language where really nobody else was doing anything like that, but it's been refined. And I look forward to seeing what Blueprint 2.0 looks like in Unreal 5.
yeah, I will say that Unreal definitely is better for bigger teams. Like each part of it respects your skills as like a master of that area. Whether it's I'm doing animation, I'm doing shaders, I'm doing, you know, the behavior and programming. Unreal is like each part of it is super open and flexible, but it's not. It's a little bit clunky. It's not as refined as the nice tools of Unreal.
Yeah. Well, I think that it might be time
Oh,
for the
sweet.
5 questions.
Yeah, no, I'm down to stick around a little bit for that. So
Well, the 5 questions, for people who aren't aware, and for you, good sir, are 5 questions that I prepared before the interview started that have nothing to do with anything at all that we have talked about thus far, with the exception of one, but it'll make sense when we get there. So, question number 1. Are you excited for Star Wars Squadrons?
I'm hesitantly enthusiastic about it, but it looks amazing. And that's why I'm like, oh, don't get too wrapped up into it. Otherwise, I want it to be good. So
I'm hearing
hesitantly
yeah.
enthusiastic.
I'm hearing from the Star Wars YouTubers that I follow who got a chance to play it last week that it is akin to an X-Wing versus TIE Fighter experience as opposed to the Starship Battles mode from Battlefront experience. So
Okay.
that bodes very well.
That does. And the detail that goes into the HUDs as well. Like,
Oh
I'm going
my
to get it just
God.
to check out that.
Dude, there's that one bit in the trailer where you look over and Wedge like nods to you, and I'm like, I just want,
Yeah,
that's all I want. I want to be sitting there in an X-Wing and just be like, "What's up, Wedge? See that?
that's it. That's
I
the
just
worth
blew
the
up some
price
TIE
of
fighters."
admission.
Yeah. Yeah. Because my wife and I are both big nerds. We both love Star Wars, but we're both Trekkies at heart. But with Star Wars, she loves it for the Jedi. She loves that kind of philosophy, the spirituality of it. I love it for the dog fights. So
Yeah.
Squadrons is my game. That said, though,
Yeah, no, Star Wars did an amazing job of condensing like the lore and the action movie together.
yeah. Also, I love the Western aspect of it too, which is why I love The Mandalorian so much. Also, that
Yeah.
show is just excellent. Um, question number 2. Who is your favorite traditional artist?
Oh, that's interesting. If I had to pick one, it might be John Singer Sargent. He's sort of nestled between the Impressionists and I guess I don't know what else, but he had a really nice painterly loose style that also was super, you know, amazing lighting basically. So loved his work.
I feel
If I had to
like,
choose somebody more recent, it would probably be William Kentridge, illustrator out of South Africa, who does amazing charcoal animations.
oh wow, that sounds awesome. I'm like imagining it in my head, and that just looks amazing.
Oh yeah, no, his work is surreal. He does movies, and instead of every frame being a new drawing, he reworks the one charcoal drawing, so it has traces of every frame before it, and he mushes around the charcoal, steps back, takes a picture, goes in and reworks the painting again until he gets the next frame.
That's kind of breaking my brain in all of the best ways.
Yeah, William Kentridge is one of my favorite, like, I guess, video artists and illustrators.
Huh. Um, question number 3. Does cilantro belong on tacos?
Oh, heck yeah.
All right, cool. We're
No,
good.
I one of when my brother's friends had a wedding, instead of saying let's all get us gifts or whatever, they just said meet us all down in Mexico. We're gonna have that's the gift. And so my first experience with cilantro on tacos was some woman who just said, "My porch is a restaurant now. Come over to my house and sit down and you know have dinner." And so that was some of the best tacos I've ever had.
It sounds
Cilantro was on them.
legit. You know, my porch is a restaurant, has some tacos.
Yeah,
All right, cool. That's also how like a horror movie would start too, but
of course.
clearly you
Yep,
got the fun like family drama that started there, and the house next door was the horror movie, clearly.
that was the horror
Yeah.
one, of course, yeah. We got
um
tacos though, so I can't complain.
yeah, I mean, no, you can't. Fictional cat just wants to double check on the name of the South African artist again.
Yeah, I believe it's William Kentridge. I can double check. But yeah, it's I think it was like one summer. I might have even been at the Art Institute of Chicago. I spent a summer there. I think that's where I found out about him.
That is legit one of the best museums I've ever been to.
Oh yeah,
But
the they had a Albrecht Dürer painting as well, the Portrait of Dorian Gray, and seeing that I was like, is gross and amazing. Um,
um
yeah, it's William Kentridge is the artist.
speaking of lighting real quick, the last time I was there they had a Caravaggio exhibit, and his contrast and lighting was just leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else in his time. But,
Oh,
you know,
for sure, yeah.
like, God, he was good, and who do we have today? No, I'm kidding. Art's excellent regardless of the era.
Yeah.
Um,
Honestly, at the Art Institute, though, my favorite room ever is the medieval, like, armor room,
oh, yeah.
um, because it's all just like, you know, imagine being a blacksmith in the day, and you're like, "What am I gonna do today?" And you're just like, "Well, I'm gonna make something sharp and pointy out of metal." And so they've just got like every version. Like, what if I put a giant ball that's heavy and put spikes on it? And they're like, "No, what if I had a long stick with a spike on it?" And like the amount of crazy weapons you see in that one room is like it's amazing.
Yeah. And just real quickly on that too, it's not just the sheer ingenuity that we've developed in how to kill ourselves, but it's the artistry that we put into it too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, the axe, the halberds have like just fine engraving. Like, of course, it has to have all this fine work
yeah, the
on a
filigree and the
slicing.
acid etch.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times. Question number 4. What is your ideal pet?
Other than a dragon, or do dragons count?
You see, audience, what do you think? Do dragons count? We'll let them
Do dragons
decide.
count?
We'll let them decide. Do dragons count as an ideal pet? I think, well, we've got one yes, uh, two yeses. Okay, dragons count.
Dragons count. Good. Okay. Well, I would. It would be a trained dragon. You can't just.
Clearly.
Yeah, you have to teach it some tricks. Get it some fresh air, exercise.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, like a Komodo dragon would have also been cool, but
That would have been cool too.
very dangerous. Very dangerous.
They have
Um,
the venom, right? Like their
you know,
bite
it's
has.
their bite is toxic, but it's if memory serves, unless like the science on it has changed, it's not a venom. It's that their saliva is the worst petri dish of all time.
It's just gross. They're,
Yeah, it's like the thing you would go, no, thank you. Can you just infect me with anthrax instead, please?
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was expecting like I don't know, cat or dog or like sugar glider. But yeah,
Sugar glider would be great.
was
I
not
mean,
expecting
I
dragon.
initially, so like on in VR chat, I'm Rocktopus. That's my handle, and so I think an octopus would do pretty well. If I had to choose a real, I mean, dragons are real, but if I had to choose a double real animal, it would probably be an octopus.
Like an actually exists animal, yeah.
An actual exist. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
because they're clearly aliens. First of all, they're very smart, and they can squish through like crazy spaces. They're
if its
amazing
beak
escape
fits,
artists.
it fits.
Yeah, and so um, that's there's a lot of features that you just don't get on a dog these days.
Chroma, I will ask that question when we're done with the 5 questions, which we're about to be done with right now. Number 5. Are you a dish out the latinum for a holodeck kind of guy, or hope the hollow shed doesn't go on the fritz and you have to fight evil Lincoln kind of guy?
Oh, interesting. So I would, I guess the holodeck one, the Latinum.
Yeah, okay.
Let's
There's
let's
no
give it a
wrong
try.
answer because either you like a Star Trek technology or you roll with the punches with Futurama, um, and both of which are excellent.
Well, I love, I mean, they're clearly both dovetail nicely together. Um, but I like how Star Trek can be silly in concept, but execute it with a straight face.
Yeah,
In a way that Futurama is clearly the parody, and so I like the they have to at least make it plausible in a way that follows like these characters are actually in it and not just for laughs.
yeah. I always really enjoyed too that at least in really all of Star Trek that involves holodecks, they also show some level of like game development for it, or at least because in Next Gen there was the whole problem with evil Moriarty because Data tried to make a Sherlock Holmes program he couldn't immediately solve. Uh,
Yeah.
it would it's hilarious, and the dude who played Moriarty was excellent. Um, and then, in DS9, there's Dr. Bashir's friend who's always sending him new Hollow novels and whatnot, which are excellent. I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Well, and I'm a fan of the Voyager ones with anything with the Doctor
oh,
in
God.
it, the HMS hologram, because that's interesting. Like the concept of what is a holographic being, how do they interact with a holodeck? And I'm just a sucker for anything with the Flash Gordon knockoff with
Yeah.
yeah, I love that series as
I
well.
just love that so much of that was because the holodeck is, the original experiment of it in Next Gen was like, hey, we now have our way of doing like those original series episodes where they end up back in time, you
Hmm.
know, without doing all of that, without having to figure out how do we get out of here, just being all like,
Yeah,
up, we had fun, story's over, computer exit, and boom, we're out, you know, but it's just,
I love the Chinese box narrative style. Like Frankenstein is one of my favorite books. How it's layers of unreliable narrators. House of Leaves as well. And I think there's something amazing about that narrative structure of nesting another story within a story. Um, and that allows you to do really cool things with your characters.
yeah. Yes, particularly in that one is the episode of Voyager where Harry Kim gets lost in the Beowulf
Oh
story.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
and the doctor starts to fall in love with the character and the thing, and it's just, yeah, why is he more real than she is? Is he real? So many things, so many feels. I actually almost made this a list of 5 questions of fictional holograms, but as I was sitting down to think of it, all of them were just going to be about the EMH
Of
because
course.
one, excellent character, and two, Robert Picardo plays him so well.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I think there's one episode where he has to train or coach 7-Eleven
yes.
or 7-Eleven. Um, 7 of 9. Oh my, that's a different spin-off. 7 of 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a coach her on a date, and it takes her to the club, and it's like, his one of the high points of his character in the jazz club playing piano.
Dude, he just released a video a couple weeks ago. It was him doing a jazz routine about playing the doctor. But within about 15 seconds, it becomes the like refrain for the song is "Why couldn't I have been born Brent Spiner?" Uh,
Amazing.
so good. Well, that's the 5 questions, which means that I now can ask you Chroma Snare's question. What is your favorite VR chat world?
Ooh, there are so many. I think just because it's an amazing first experience is Treehouse in the Shade is my absolute, like, this is something that everybody has to see. And so the world is a treehouse in the middle of this amazing shader world, and they're Raymark shaders, which means mathematically they go on forever. You could explore these full 3D universes, ones like blowing grass in the wind, another one's this fractal, like it looks like a cathedral. The creator of it um, also put jetpacks, so you can jump on a jetpack and fly around through these mathematical fractal worlds and explore them with other people. And then if you want to go in the treehouse, there's this whole menu where you select the shaders that you want to see. And so it's like flipping channels, but the entire world outside of your treehouse is changing instead of just a TV channel. There's chill music to listen to, and a lot of the shaders are interactive as well. There's a holographic touch panel where you can touch it with your hands and like change the color or change like so many, like basically DJ the world around you with this touch panel. Um, so yeah, Treehouse in the Shade is definitely one of the most beautiful experiences I've had in VR chat, and uh, it's a little bit tough to say this, but unfortunately, the creator of it passed away, and we wrote a blog post
Oh,
kind of
damn.
memorializing him. But it's I've only met him through his avatar a few times in VR chat, and so thinking that his work is still there to be experienced. Yeah, it was really tough for a lot of people, but you know, it's still there, and it's still one of the best experiences. So.
I can
But
hardly
yeah,
think of a better memorial.
yeah. So this one goes out to 1001. Such amazing creator, and just helped so many people to learn how to create stuff for VR chat, and it's gonna definitely be missed.
Wow. That's
It's a
yeah.
heavy thing to end on, but no, it is like all what this is. What this is, it's a space that we think is a virtual space when we're interacting, but it's very real. Like, getting together with friends is still getting together with friends, and so I like to think of it as it's kind of this beautiful thing that happened because of the community coming together, creators from around the world sharing, what's in their head, and it's not just like, hey, this painting that's on the wall, but it's a full world that you're gonna experience with your friends. So
Yeah. Well, too, it's I mentioned earlier in the show that, I spend a lot of time in VR, but I don't spend a lot of time gaming. And in truth, I bought into VR because of the potential of it as a gaming platform. But now I stay in VR because of its potential as a social platform. Because like being able to link up with some friends in alt space, VR chat, NeoWise, hell, even this as kind of a fun way of interacting with people. It's this just excellent way of allowing that first generation of adopters of this new technology to get a feel for it and understand how it all works. And like I get to be a fucking robot.
yeah.
You
The
know,
funny thing is my avatar is currently a TV-headed robot in VR chat as well. So,
yours looks much more visually interesting than mine.
well, I mean, solidarity with the TV-headed robots
Well,
from one to another.
mine is inspired by the work of a different VR artist, though. Mr. VR Human, who is
Oh, of course.
excellent. Yeah, love that guy. Uh, Vlad, I want you on the show. Please stop being so busy being awesome.
Well, he can also like his work in the Museum of Other Realities
Yep.
is really great as well.
He's one of the people who is collaborating for the VR fashion show that is on tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Museum of Other Realities. Another group of people I'm trying to get on the show as well, because that place is awesome and I love it. So, but then again, I'm a nerd and I go to museums for fun. So,
Yeah. Well, they did such a great job of like, please touch. Like museums are, it's a story. You go with your friends and you say, check this out. And so many of the things have a nice VR, and I'm not using it as a pejorative, but they have a gimmick. Like it's VR. You've got these weird goggles on. Show me something that I've never seen before, and
yeah,
let me touch it. And the museum does such a great job.
the ability to really inhabit the pieces of art is that is the strength of the medium. As interesting as it is, because you do see a lot of virtual reality artists who kind of start their VR art career by kind of emulating the two-dimensional paintings of previous masters. But then when they move past that, they also start to then work on the dimensionality of that work as well. So, like Rosie's a good example of this. Like her reinterpretation of Van Gogh's Starry Night is beautiful, perfectly encapsulates the original work, but adds that level of depth that you wouldn't normally see in a two-dimensional painting. And
Yeah.
then where artists continue to go from there too is just even more interesting. And it's just, like uh the plain simple truth of it is that I feel so lucky to know so many of these really cool people.
Yeah, what excites me a lot is, and this comes from one of my professors and mentors in the VR space. I believe he's at Microsoft now, but Mark Bolus was talking about how like we in VR, like we just teleport or transplant maybe things from the real world, and this is clear on like the iPhone. It's skeuomorphism. It's like, well, the note taking app should look like a piece of note taking paper, and then we've kind of refined that away into this flat UI space that we've been in before. Um, and but then there's a certain point where like we all understand the flat interfaces. And so what comes after that? And it's like, well, future generations are going to have all these weird ways of interacting that just we can't get because they're generations of, like, well, reinterpreting neumorphism or skeuomorphism into neumorphism, and then like it just goes beyond like what we understand as things to interact with. In a similar way to like if I handed my grandparents a laptop, they're kind of like gated from the worlds within that by where they are comfortable with technology. And so 50 years in the future, handing somebody AR glasses or VR glasses, like it's going to be more of a separation of mind than the actual technology. It's like all these things that we get used to.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm super excited about that because like after we got photorealism and art, things got really awesome. Exploration of the spaces and like aesthetics beyond realism.
Well, one of the things I'm excited for too is that being a millennial, I've grown up with such a fast evolution of technology. I just hope that the technological elasticity I have developed continues on, and I'm just looking forward so much to seeing all the different ways that we're going to be interacting with our technology and other people across the world.
Yeah. I hit the like, yep, give me the update as soon as it's available kind of thing. Because if you stop, wanting all the new stuff, then you fall behind very quickly. So, oh,
Oh
new
yeah.
version of this app, give it to me now. Like you kind of just have to keep up on it.
My personal favorite was when I bought the Index. They're all like, "Hey, we have the 144 hertz mode, but it's experimental." And I'm like, "Check."
Yep,
And
give it
I'm
to me.
like, "Yes, I will take 288 hertz in front of my face." Oh man. Well, Mike, I have this weird feeling that we could probably talk all day. Uh,
For
but I
sure.
I do know I have to wake up tomorrow morning to let people into my house to turn my electricity off for a while. So, where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm just at MJ Murdock, MJMURDOC on Twitter and Instagram and pretty much everywhere. But Rocktopus in VR chat.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Um, yeah, this turned into a conversation on so many amazing, crazy levels that I was not prepared for, but super happy to get involved in. I was all like, hey, we're going to talk about cool holograms. And then I find out you take pictures of your computer screen and post that to the internet. And then we got talking about weapon design of the medieval period.
Of course. I think that's proper. We had to go there at some point.
you know, Nick in the chat hasn't been has our schedules haven't lined up too quickly. First thing he says when he gets in the show is love seeing that the show hasn't gotten less nerdy while I've been gone, um, and it's the truth. It's the truth. So, well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us one more time. I'll talk to you in just a minute after I close out the show. But now is the time where I go to this camera angle and I look at the camera and I say to you all, thank you for joining me tonight. It's honestly it's been awesome. Thank you everybody in chat, my new followers with Boombox Heads and Crikey. Thank you for joining the studio audience here and joining us. Usually, this is also the time of the show where I tell you about all the other shows I have lined up for this week. Unfortunately, I don't have any more shows lined up for this week. Starting tomorrow and through the rest of the week, I'm going to have workers in the house doing a bunch of stuff. And I'm going to be without power, out of my office, all that kind of jazz. So I just figured it's just better not to schedule any shows just in case anything goes crazy wrong. That said, Wednesday is this month's hashtag Pitch a Game event. It runs from 5 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time to 5 p.m. So go ahead and, like get some of those game ideas you've been working on out there. And tech permitting, I will also be doing a stream that night with all the games that kind of catch my eye. But other than that, everybody, thank you all so much for being here. It means the world to me because doing this show is a super lot of fun. And I mean, I'd do it if you weren't here, but it's definitely more fun when there's an audience. So until next time, I'll see you on the next episode of That Thom Clancy Show. Take it easy, everybody. Drink some water, wear your mask, have some vitamins, get lots of sleep. And yeah, Nick, I'm a nerd. Get over it. Love you all. Take it easy, folks. Bye.